Hello, everyone, and welcome to our Study Abroad webinar. Thank you all so much for joining. We are very, very excited to have our guest speakers here today, Don and Tony from McMillan Education and Maria and Zoe from Terra Study, and our guest Leora, who will be telling us about her experience of study abroad. This webinar we put together because we are seeing a lot of interest from students who want to more and more study in Spain and Europe. So we decided to invite our experts to join us and tell us all about study abroad options. First, we're going to have Zoe and Maria from Terra Study talking to us about public university options in Spain, including a bachelor's degree, semesters abroad, and masters. You can ask them all the questions after. And then Don and Tony are going to talk to us about private university in Spain and Europe. So I'm going
Let's
to
start.
let Zoe take it away, and at the end we'll open the floor to questions.
Okay, sure. I'll be
Great.
happy to. Let's start. We'll try to see if everybody can see my presentation. Okay, let's see. Okay, everything is fine, right?
Yeah.
Okay, great. So as Arancha said, we are a Spanish educational consultancy agency in Spain. My name is Zoe and my colleague is Maria. And we are educational advisors with more than 25 years of experience in the field of education in Spain. And over those years, we helped more than 8,000 students in finding the right universities, right programs, and helping them on the way. What are the advantages of working with Terra Study? We know that the admission to Spanish educational centers can be bureaucratic and can be complex. So we're here to help with that. We're here to simplify the process, and we handle all the paperwork and administrative steps. And also we offer trusted support from application to enrollment. What do we offer? Of course, we're going to mention the public university, but we pretty much cover all the education in Spain. We work with the accredited schools that offer language courses. As well, of course, we help with admission to universities. We do offer university preparation courses that I will mention a bit later. As well, vocational trainings and boarding schools, specialized programs such as master degrees and PhDs, and additional educational support. As well, we help with the homologation of the high school diploma. That is a necessary step if the international student wants to apply to public and some private universities in Spain. So I will talk more about the preparation course. So the preparation course is the course that prepares the international students for the entrance exam to the public universities. This preparation course consists of two parts. The first part will be the intensive Spanish course, and the second part will be the preparation for the subjects. So every specialty will have some specific entrance subjects, and the academy that we're working with are helping to choose the subjects right, and helping to help with the process of accessing. These courses usually take from 8 to 12 months, depending on your level. But we are already advising to start this course with the minimum level of Spanish, because the second part, the preparation part, will be completely in Spanish. So this is the advice. The first big advice is already starting to learn a bit of Spanish if you want to access the public university and some private ones in Spain. So Maria will say a bit more about public university.
Thank you very much, Zoe. Can you move a bit up, because I start with thank you very much with my slide. So hello, my name is Maria. Thank you, Zoe, and I continue with some key points about studying in Spain. So first of all, bachelor degree and master degrees in Spain are available in English and fully in English, bilingual, and Spanish, of course. And you can choose between public and private universities. Both have great options. Most undergraduate program last 4 years, and most master degrees last like 1 or 2 years, depends. Spain is very welcoming to international students. Around 14% of university students in Spain are from different countries. mostly Latin America. Admission deadlines and requirements vary by province, so it's a very important point, and I will speak about that later. And you must homologate, which means validate your high school diploma. Who can apply to bachelor's and master's? Students who already graduated from high school and students graduating this year, and the same for master. Who can apply to master's degree? Students who already graduated from a bachelor's and students who are graduating this year. So both are available. Can you move, please? Thank you. A few words about homologation, but probably it's not very familiar. So homologation basically is official recognition of your high school diploma here in Spain. And it's necessary to both for public and private universities, always for official programs. The process includes obtaining an apostille in your country of your high school diploma and the transcripts of last 3 years. Then getting official translations of your documents, sworn translations, and validating them later in the Ministry of Education here in Spain. Don't worry, we will guide you through each step. Important tip, international students can apply early in January or February using just only homologation. No entrance exams needed, but you have to speak Spanish in this case. A few words about timeline. So in September, October, you start your Spanish language course. In January, you have to choose your bachelor program and the province or university. In January, you also start your subject-specific course for chosen field because it's very important to choose the right university and the province. In May, you take your entrance exam, and in June, July, the application process and confirmation of your spot have to be completed by the payment. And once admitted, you can start your visa application, book your homologation, start with the insurance, and so on. And what else? Well, here you have the best university in Spain, which is Pompeu Fabra, Autónoma de Madrid, Carlos III, which is a great option, Autónoma de Barcelona as well. And also we have prepared a few degrees that you can study fully in English, which business administration and management, and Carlos III, Bachelor in International Studies in Universidad Pompeu Fabra, in biomedical science, and Bachelor in Neuroscience, and you can see a few of options. And to summarize, so you have to validate your high school diploma, take the university entrance exam, have the language proficiency, submit all documents on including your diploma, transcripts, ID, or passport, and book your accommodation and insurance. That's it. So, and we guide you in every moment.
Yes, and if I can mention also some non-academic additional services that we offer. We do offer assistance with accommodation options, so we can help you to find some accommodation while you're studying here. As well, we offer the visa advice services. We can help you to choose the right insurance. We can give you the contact with the trusted insurance agents. We also can give you the contacts of the sworn translators here in Spain. And important part that we are offering the ongoing support for the students who are already in Spain. So if you're in Spain, you're still in contact with us, and we can help you throughout your first few months and later. And well, if to sum up everything that we just mentioned, just so it's going to be an easy information to take in, the public universities in Spain are more affordable, but the process can be a bit more complex. And the good part that you can study in English, but you still need to know some Spanish. As we mentioned, it's important to do the preparation course. That is like the first year of your studying. And for that preparation course, you still need to know Spanish, even if you're going to start your studying in English. And we mentioned the important one, that it's homologation, which is your degree recognition. But maybe it can seem a bit complicated, but don't worry, we can help you with everything. After the presentation, we can answer some questions and be in contact with Arantxa and everybody, and help you to find the right program and get the successful beginning of the career here in Europe.
That's it. All
Thank you
questions
so
are
I
much.
think we're done on
Thank you
here.
very much, Zoe. Thank you very much, Zoe. Then later we can share our presentation if needed.
Yes.
Oh, fantastic. Yeah, that would be great. There are some questions coming in the chat and by email from people who are not going to make it to the call.
Of course.
So first one from one of our alumni who wants to study sustainability related degrees. What are the options fully in English in public university?
Yeah, there is one option in fully in English in Spain, in Universidad Pompeu Fabra y Carlos III, but you have to learn Spanish because you have to apply to PCE entrance preparation course and start your language course and then this specific subject-based course in January, or you can use this early admission, which is a great option. In this case, no language certificate is needed, but you can try to submit all your documentation in January or February. Use this option just only for international students, and but by September or October, you have to start the homologation process. It's the real great option for those who want to study in English in the public university.
The full
Carlos
degree
III.
in sustainability is in English.
Carlos III, yes.
Okay, and could you give us a few examples of bachelor's degrees that you can study fully in English in public uni?
We have this slide in our presentation.
I can go back
biomedical engineering, social studies, global studies, international relations. Can you share this slide, please?
Yeah,
So,
I'll go back to sharing, and
you can find a lot of options of English degrees in Carlos III in Madrid or in Pompeu Fabra, Barcelona.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and a bit of the slide. If they can see us or now, we can just send it by text. But those are like the most popular ones.
Just a few examples, but you have more options. Carlos III in Andalusia, in Granada or Malaga, the bachelor degree in tourism, fully taught in English, and also we can offer this early admission option. But in Andalusia, I think it's in March. And you can find more options in Universidad de Barcelona.
Okay. And thank you so much. Thank you, Maria and Zoe.
You're welcome.
From participants who are muted, would you like to ask any questions about public uni in Spain?
Or homologation process or something, or visa. Visa is quite easy because public universities they are allowed to submit all documentation, and visa process is quite easy in this case because everything is official, everything is already approved, so no problem with that.
Any questions on that? We have two more questions from the chat. One being the fees. The fees for public uni, you mentioned that it's more affordable than private university. Don and Tony will be covering private fees later on, but what are the fees for public university?
It's really depend on the province because every province is a whole world. Speaking about Madrid and Barcelona, it's about 6,000 more or less, because for international students it's higher, the price is higher. But speaking about Castilla y León, Andalusia, Valencia, it's very low price, like 1,000 or more or less.
Per semester?
No, 1 year. Per year.
Yeah, but if I can add, when we talk about the public university, the first year will be the preparation course that can cost a bit more. So if if the student want to take that step and they want to access the public university, then the first year is going to be a preparation course that also depends on the city, but it starts around 4,000 euros for the whole year, just for the studying. And then, the next year, what Maria mentioned about the fees to the university.
Of course, we're talking about tuition fee. Then you have to include the accommodation, depends on if it's residence or the share flats and everything, bills and everything.
Okay, super. Any muted participants, if you'd like to unmute yourselves and ask?
Well, if not, we expect more questions after our webinar or by email or something.
Yeah, absolutely. We have Nick here asking about last minute enrollment. So
It's
you were
possible.
talking
It's
January,
no, no,
February, but
no.
yeah.
No, it's possible, but without exam, it really depends on your bachelor profile, because not all bachelors are available. Bachelors in English, bachelors in business, bachelor in psychology, bachelor in engineering are very competitive. But for example, bachelor in tourism, you can apply in Andalusia last moment, fase extraordinaria in July, and try to get into without exam, but with homologation started. Homologation
And
is the key point.
this
Yes,
is
it's very
for
important
the
for
high
fase
school diploma,
extraordinaria.
right?
Yeah, of course. Yeah. And no homologation is needed for master degree.
Okay.
Almost never.
Nick is in second year in university in the US. So for transfers, is it the same process?
No, for the transfer, different different dates, different deadlines, and different documents. It's not very easy, but it's possible. You can, yeah, we can talk apart, but aside. But it's very important to get his study plan and compare his study plan with the study plan of the Spanish universities. And hopefully in only and specific dates are very different. I think it depends on the university, but they start from August or September or something like that.
Okay, thank you so much. Super. Well, I don't have any more questions about public uni. 3 seconds to raise your hand if you have any questions, or we move on to private universities. There will be more time to ask questions after Don
Of
and
course,
Tony's
after webinar,
presentation.
yeah.
So perfect. Okay, well then, Don, Tony, over to you. Thank you so much.
Great.
Thank you, Ren.
Thank you, Maria and Zoe, and thanks to Arancha for the chance to talk to you guys and share sort of how to look at English-speaking universities, private in Spain and the UK and across Europe. And Tony and I have the pleasure and have for over 25 years working with students looking at English-speaking universities, again, private ones, both in the States and more in the past year in particular, across Europe. So what we're going to try to do today is to give you kind of the lay of the land about what the differences are. We'll work from Spain. Tony will do that. Tony has lived and studied in Spain to the England, and then we'll talk about some universities in Europe. With a name like McMillan, I have to talk about Scotland briefly, as well as Trinity, some colleges in Ireland, and then if we have time, very briefly about Canada. And we'll try to make this really practical for you so you can understand how to do it. And to just frame a little bit where we're coming from, Tony and I work on a team that my wife Sarah runs with me called McMillan Education. And we are based in Boston because there's 35 universities here. And we have worked with students from over 70 countries for the last 70 years. Now, Tony and I are not 70, but the company goes back that far. So we have a long tradition of working with international students looking in the US and abroad. Obviously, we're focusing today on abroad, but we also do work with students looking at universities across the US. And this past year, given the political situation in the States, we've actually been working on two lists at once for most students, which are the US and also over in Europe. We actually have offices in France and Italy. I lived and studied in France, and I split my time. My wife and I have an office and a home in France, so I'm splitting between France and Boston. My son works for us for a long time. He's in Italy. So we have a lot of experience placing families or students in Europe. We also have specialists in learning differences. If you need help with executive functioning, or you have dyslexia, or maybe there's kind of a cognitive issue that you need special education for. And we work with a lot of athletes who are looking to compete. And let's just say my phone has been ringing off the hook the last week with reporters saying what is going on in the US. So it's been a busy time for us. So, and Tony, you have to remind me where we are here in Madrid.
Plaza de Santa Ana. I believe
Thank
that's
you.
the statue of Federico Garcia
Great
Lorca,
place.
a famous poet.
There you go. That was Tony brought me out for a very late night tapas run. And there may have been some cana too. So, how do we help families? Families, I think, just like Terra Study, they engage us. We are not paid by universities. We're not paid by schools. We do what's best for students. And we have a great job because we get to travel around the world visiting hundreds of English-speaking universities, and we get to work with students who are teenagers or in their 20s. And so it's really cool working with young people and visiting big, small universities, all boys, all women, formal, informal, city, country. So we're about finding the right fit for each student to select the best universities. And then the third point is we give you strategies to develop your profile. So you need to work more in activities or take this exam or do this summer program. And then we also help you with the different deadlines because if you're applying to different countries, you're going to have different times when you apply, when you hear, and when you make a decision. And then we spend a ton of time on the fifth part, which is the hands-on guidance for applications and essays. And what's interesting as we talk to admissions directors during AI, they need these essays now more than ever, like student, real, authentic essays. So we go through draft after draft after draft. And what we're going to do today a bit is start with Spain. And this is Tony up in IE and the big tower in Madrid, where I remember each floor we get off, we heard like a different language being spoken. And this is some admissions officers that we met with over lunch, which went for quite a few hours. So we'll start with Spain, and then we'll come back and I'll talk a little bit about the European ones, okay? So Tony, on the assumption you can see that, okay, take it away.
Yep, all set. Yeah, and thank you to Maria and Zoe for the public universities because it is complex and there are a lot of moving parts. So having people that know, the different pathways that you have. I'm just going to talk about three different possibilities in Spain. Spain holds a special place in my heart. My mother's father was from Galicia before he came to the U.S., so I've always had an attraction to get back to the country. And these are some interesting options. So the first one I would talk to is IE. It is there's a campus, a vertical campus as they call it, right in the northern part of the business district of Madrid. It is a wonderfully high tech, seems like fast paced, modern building with lots of great opportunities. A lot of people look at it as a business school, but they do have some other interesting possibilities, not only in the Madrid campus, but also at the Segovia campus. And Don, you can just scroll right through the next one as well. Madrid, as Don said, it's a very diverse student body. They have 130 plus nationalities. And I think the difference there that we see between maybe a student that's looking for a U.S. Type of experience is that it's a city school. So you're going off, you're going to be living and finding, and IE does help a little bit in terms of maybe where you can get a flat, a piso to live with some other students, but you are going to be in the city, and it will be a city experience. Maybe a 30-minute high-speed train ride away is Segovia. And so if we go to the next slide, they also have a campus here in Segovia, which is a wonderfully historic small city. And they converted a convent that goes back to, I guess it says 1218. And it's a very interesting synergy between the old and the new technology there. And this campus helps to add to their offerings. So you might get into some more political science background. I know they have archaeology here because there's an active dig going on to the Roman ruins that are below the convent as well. So you have Madrid, Segovia. Oftentimes students are taking classes between these different sites. Going to the north and to the Mediterranean, ESADE is a part of another larger university. But again, it has a strong international community with about 95% of its students being from countries other than Spain. So it's going to give you that very collaborative international feel. As Maria and Zoe said, the bachelor's and the master's, there are opportunities at these private universities as well. So you may be looking to get your business degree at undergrad at one, and then maybe go off to a public university once your Spanish gets even better than it is, even though these are in English. Economics, law is another big one that you might be able to see at places like this. One thing I would say about the admissions process at IE and ESADE is that they are on a rolling admissions basis. Don had just mentioned about the timelines. What that means is in around the end of August, September, you can submit your application to these schools and they will notify you as they read through. What do you need to submit? Well, obviously you're going to need your IB or your A levels or your US diploma. You're going to also need to complete either IE is on the Common App for my US or students that are looking at US, but they also have their own online application. ESADE has an online application. Don mentioned us working with students on essays. And I think this is different than public universities in some different places in Europe and in the US. They're still going to look for essays at ESADE and IE. So it'll be depend on the year and what they're asking for. The other big thing and a big difference that I think surprises students sometimes is that you will need to do an interview. It's compulsory at ESADE. You're gonna need to do it, and I believe IE, because they've had a really great interest. They've done a wonderful job marketing in the U.S. and in other countries. So at a certain level, if you make a certain cutoff, they will also, you will need to do an interview. And that interview is going to be talking about what you're interested in studying, why you're interested in going to that school. And we do a lot of interview prep as well as a group. The other thing, if your first language is not English, you haven't studied in an English high school, you'll need proof of your English ability. So when we were talking with Maria and Zoe, they're saying, hey, we have to get your Spanish up to be able to go to that Spanish university. On the flip side here, you're going to need to make sure that you have your TOEFL or your IELTS score at a certain level. The other thing that they also will need is an entrance exam at these two schools. So you could either take a US entrance exam. We have the SAT and we have the ACT. Or both ESADE and IE have their own entrance exam. And that's going to focus on things that you would probably think of in terms of the math, in terms of your English ability, in terms of some reasoning. And that's where I think those components, your English level, your testing, your grades from your high school, and your essays are going to be the main components. The third school that I have on here is St. Louis University Madrid. So this is an interesting opportunity because St. Louis University is a US-based university that has its own campus in Madrid. And they have, I think, around 100 undergraduate majors. So they offer a ton. It is a place often where students will go for a semester to study abroad, but it is also possible to be there for 4 years and get your bachelor's degree. St. Louis University is test optional. You do not need a test. It takes the Common App, which is an online application. But obviously you need proof of graduation and your high school diploma that you need there. And I know Nick just asked a question about is it still possible? I got an email because I'm on the IE mailing list. They are still accepting students in certain majors for next year, like applied math, computer science and artificial intelligence, environmental science and sustainability, political sciences. So because they're rolling, they're still looking. And I can just quickly address the cost. Yes, it's going to be more expensive than public universities. You are probably looking at 22,000 euros per year before you talk about your room and board. So where are you going to live? And that's probably I would just give you that estimate. We could check out and look at the individuals. So that's my little spiel on Spain. I'll turn it back over to Don.
Awesome. Thank you. And we'll ask about if you have any questions about the Spanish, or now I'm switching to the European ones when we're through here. And I think where Tony talked about the different ones in Spain, let's broaden it out a little bit. So we have a lot of students who say, I want a private English speaking opportunity and I want to look at business. And we will guide a lot of students to Bocconi in Milan. And Bocconi does require an SAT. It does require a letter of motivation. There's different requirements, but what's really cool about it is they have an incredibly good business program. And Milan's interesting. It's not exactly Italy. My son, who works for us from Southern Italy, is like, Milan's more like Europe or Paris, or it's different, but it is the center of fashion and of business. And it's a wonderful opportunity it's a very competitive school in terms of admission and timing. And then we have a whole set of students. I'm going to kind of brush across different countries. In the Netherlands, there's what's called the American style. What's an American style? It's entirely different than, let's say, where you just know what you're going to do, like in the UK. The American style is called the liberal arts and sciences because there's a belief in America, and we do this with students looking at American universities, whether it's in Boston, like Boston University, Harvard, or Tufts, or our students looking at University of California, that when you're 17 or 18, you don't know what you want to do, or you think you know what you want to do, and you're going to change your mind. So the American system is built on having you take different subjects, and after 2 years of some math and science and some humanities, maybe some computer stuff, a foreign language, then you decide. And the American style also has more people living together and has more activities. So the Netherlands has sort of figured that out. Let me switch now to England. If you do know what you want to do, you're in the minority and you know, I want to do engineering, or I want to do education, or I want to do business. That's where England can come in really handy because most of the bachelor's degrees are 3 years and it's less expensive than the US. In fact, all of these opportunities are going to be less expensive than going to Boston University or Tufts or Harvard in the US. And the English universities allow you to really specialize, whether it's Oxford or Cambridge or London School of Economics. And the big decision here is, you want to be in London or not, and sort of the rest of England. But the advantages of England, this is one of Tony and my colleagues, Amy, who lived in London for 8 years as a university counselor and does a lot of work. That's Imperial, which is sort of the MIT of London. Um, so as I mentioned, you've got to decide kind of London or not. Where we help is we help you pick for the UCAS for England, the five, or the UK, I should say, 5 universities, your specific course. We guide you with a personal statement and your teacher rec. Okay, let me go back to this idea that Tony talked about with like the St. Louis University. There's a wonderful network of American universities abroad that are mostly in Western Europe that do this, will try everything, a broad range of studies. You specialize later. They've got academics, they've got activities. They tend to be in historic cities. They tend to be very small. Do you like discussion-oriented classes as opposed to lecture? This would be for you. Tony and I have visited this one in Switzerland, Franklin. It's gorgeous. We've seen all of these, John Cabot, which is right in Rome, Richmond, which is in London, and there's St. Louis we looked at earlier, the American University of Paris. It's right on the banks of the Seine. It's an amazing piece of land and a great program. Webster, right outside of Geneva, an incredibly international city. There's the Netherlands again. And again, these particular schools will allow you to do that broad range. They do allow transfers. They're friendly to that. They're friendly for late enrollments. Um, and they're going to assess you on a number of different things, not just your grades and scores, but it's also going to be, pardon me, it's going to be your activities, your essays, how interested you are. That's kind of the American style. It's more holistic. Okay. Let's say you don't want that whole broad thing of the US, nor do you know one thing you want to do. So let's talk about a couple of countries that are kind of in between. They're hybrids. Scotland has a great balance. University of St Andrews, Edinburgh, University of Glasgow, many of the students there do find, well, okay, there I can pick one or two things, maybe a third thing, specialize a little bit later. They've got more activities, they've got more residential piece. I don't want to put you on the spot, Leora, but if you want to talk a little about your experience with Edinburgh, go for it. We happen to hit it on a rainy day over there, shocker. But any other Edinburgh thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I think Edinburgh's an amazing city. Like you said, it's in Scotland. It's normally a 4-year program as opposed to England. It'll be 3 years, and that's because your first 2 years at most Scottish universities, you are studying the courses which you apply to, but you also study outside courses. So it's a little bit of a mix of both. And then in your final 2 years, you can have the option to like maybe switch a degrees if you didn't really like what you applied into, or stick with what you have. And that's what I did. So I'm going into my 4th year at Edinburgh. I love it. I mean, I just think the, the city is fantastic. Um, yeah. If anyone has any questions about, about Edinburgh specifically, or being in the UK, happy to talk about.
Have you found the train station? Like, I mean, it's right there, right? In terms of
Yeah.
um,
Yeah, I mean it's amazing. I think one of my favorite things about being in the UK is how accessible everything is. Obviously, I don't have a car over there, and if I did, it'd be a little stressful to drive on the other side of the road, but you can get pretty much anywhere on public transport, and also you're close to the rest of Europe, so and travel there is much cheaper in general. So I've gone on weekends to different places, or during a break in classes, gone places with my friends. So it's been an amazing experience.
Thank you for sharing that. And I think that's one of the real beauties of studying in Europe, the American University of Paris or Rome. You're going to be in these amazingly historic, cathedral-bound, bagpipe-filled areas. I hope you've had some haggis. Um, and you can scoot all over the place, right? And having studied in Paris myself when I was 20 and 21, you're zipping all over the place. So that's a cool reason to do it. And as Leonora said, you can get that kind of mix of the UK tradition, but the flexibility of America. It's the same in Ireland. Like Trinity College, you have that extra year, so the 4-year degree like the States, you can experiment a little bit, then you can settle in. And then Tony and I were really blown away by University College Dublin, which is less super selective than, say, Trinity or Edinburgh or Cambridge, and had a beautiful kind of American style campus. So that's worth also mentioning. And I'll just put a brief shout out to Canada, our neighbor to the north, because they do the same thing. We're McGill in Montreal, bilingual. It's an English-speaking university, but a bilingual city. University of British Columbia, which is out in Vancouver, University of Toronto. And these are not as hard to get into. It's not like the States where we're proud it's only 5% are accepted. They're bigger. You can get in. University of British Columbia will want a little bit more of that American style in terms of essays and activities, not just grades and scores. And that's kind of how we help students. Like these are the different admissions requirements for the different schools. You're writing a lot of different personal statements, what's important for them. And we usually add a lot of different universities. As I mentioned, we'll have maybe American ones and European ones. And finally, I'll show you a tool that we use called Unifrog, which helps us for our UK and European universities get a chance of which ones are aspirational, which are solid. We visit all these schools, like we say, but this gives us some really hard data because it's hard to predict for these sort of pseudo-American style schools. How do you get in or not? It's not just exam based like a lot of the Spanish schools are. So we like to use our tech. And I'll open it up for questions in a second here, but just in terms of getting in contact, this is our whole team in Boston. We're a bunch of former teachers and university counselors at private schools who now do this from Boston, home of the Boston Bruins and the Boston Red Sox. We have a little fun together as well. We've got a lot of good colleges. Normally, Harvard's the big bad guy. Now we're all cheering for them because they're standing up really strong for intellectual freedom and for the rights of universities. So we're really proud of the fight they're putting up. But if you want to get in touch, there's our WhatsApp, there's our website, and you can poke around and learn about us from our particular McMillan Education site. So hopefully that gives you a little overview about private universities and English speaking in Spain, UK, and Europe.
Fantastic. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Vibes. Thank you very much, Dawn and Tony. Very interesting. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. And Leora, while you're still here, can you tell us a little bit about your specific path? What are you studying?
Yeah, sure. I study linguistics at the University of Edinburgh, going to my fourth year. And if you're not familiar with linguistics, not not a lot of people are. There's a lot of misconceptions about it. I don't learn every single language, or I don't know every single language. It's more about the science of language. Um, yeah, and yeah, but my specific path in high school, I'm from the Boston area. I was kind of interested in going to school abroad, specifically in the UK. It seemed, kind of exotic in a way, which if anyone from the UK, if they heard me describe it as exotic, they'd have a good laugh at that. But it kind of felt like it was a good mix of something really new in that it's Europe and it's a different part of the world, but also still speak the same language. And I wasn't necessarily totally comfortable studying somewhere where most people spoke a different language. Even though debatably sometimes when people speak at an accent in Edinburgh, I don't know if it's exactly the same language, but I'm getting better at it. Um, and so it was right before COVID, I managed to visit the UK, look at a few schools. Sorry if you hear stuff in the background. I'm dog sitting right now and the dog's a little rowdy. And I originally was just looking schools around London, ended up going up to Edinburgh just kind of as we'll see.
Lovely.
And kind of totally fell in love with it. Um, and the great thing about applying to schools in the UK is you find out a lot earlier depending on when you apply. So I had done specifically for Edinburgh, but also most UK schools really just want your test scores. So I submitted an AP exam, my ACT score, and a subject test, which don't exist anymore. Um, but at the time, that was acceptable. And I found out I submitted that like October of my senior year and heard back a month later, which was awesome because I was like, great, my college, everyone else can stress out. This is over for me. Um, yeah, they never took my transcript, which I found very frustrating. I don't know if that's the norm among a lot of universities, but
No.
it was definitely frustrating for me because I felt like, no, please look at my transcript. But maybe that's good for different people. I don't know. And yeah, I mean, I'm going to my fourth year now. It's been amazing. I took a gap year, and I did, the program with Arancha and Spanish Gap Year, which was amazing. Happy to also answer any questions about that. Yeah, going into my fourth year now, it's been so great. I'm lucky that I live in the Boston area, so it's not that far of a flight. For me, I have a lot of friends who go to school in California. It's really kind of similar distance. So yeah.
Well, you must have had a very good transcript if they took you early unconditionally, because
Yeah.
you have a lot of kids who They might say conditionally, let's do an
Yeah.
extra essay. There's a lot more pieces involved than that. So, congratulations to you.
Thank you. Yeah, I had a pretty good ACT score, so I think
Yeah.
that helped out. But also, at least in Edinburgh, I don't know about the different schools in the UK, but they love international students because they'll be paying full university fees. So there's that aspect of it as well.
And we have Lauren. I'm not going to put you on the spot. She's an incoming gap year student. She just graduated high school, and congratulations to all of you joining us who just graduated high school. Amazing milestone, and what an exciting time, right? Just so that people who are listening can compare the deferral process, UK, Europe versus US university, because Lauren, you have already deferred in the US, right? Leora, how was that for you going into your gap year and starting a year later?
Yeah, I mean, it was my deferral process was really easy. I basically just submitted something on my kind of university's portal that was like, I want to take a year off. And I graduated 2021, so it was still kind of recovering from COVID, and I wanted that kind of extra year for things to adjust more and also just, kind of experience something new before I went to college. Um, I think I don't remember if I had to say a reason. I think I probably did. Um, but I mean, it was pretty much just like submitting and then it was done. And I hadn't originally planned to do any gap year programs. I was working for most of the year, just kind of in the area, but I decided to kind of do one halfway through. So, but yeah, it was pretty simple for me.
Lauren, would you be happy to share a little bit about how you deferred?
Yeah, my situation was the same. I just applied like normal. Um, and I had to like wait. I had to email them and wait a really long time to get the deferral link. It was kind of annoying. But yeah, I did have to say my reasoning in that. Yeah.
Okay, super. Any more questions coming from our muted friends? A ver, 1 second. Da, 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 da. Lauren, any questions for Leora while she's here?
Did you, I know you probably did Spanish. Did you transfer any credits to university?
No, I didn't. I don't. It might be different. Like in St. Andrews, I know they take like applications on the Common App. So they might have a little more, similarities to credit transferring, excuse me. But I
Mhm.
didn't transfer any credits. Also, it wasn't really relevant to my degree. Um, it kind of because you don't have any like liberal arts requirements where I went to school, you just do the only requirements you have are like in your degree program plus in your first 2 years any kind of extras you take outside of that. You don't have to take a math class, you don't have to take like a science or history depending on whatever course you're taking. So it wasn't, yeah, I didn't transfer anything. But I know people who did like in the US, but not in the UK.
And Liara, for those people who are still on the fence and they don't know whether they might like to defer, take a gap year, some people think that they're going to miss out if they take a gap year. What would you say to that? Did it help you? Did it disadvantage you in any way to take a gap year before uni?
Yeah, I definitely didn't disadvantage me. I think it's been interesting now. A lot of my friends are graduating from college this past year. Um, and I haven't felt kind of like, oh man, I wish I was graduating too. I've kind of felt the opposite, like, whoo, thank goodness I'm not graduating this year. But no, I definitely did feel like it never felt like I made a mistake. I felt really kind of after my gap year, I felt a lot more like like I understood myself a lot more. I felt much more independent and ready for university, and I definitely felt that when I got there. Like, oh, I feel a lot more prepared than a lot of people here, and it definitely helped me, especially because I was so far away from home. It helped me kind of adjust more easily, having had that kind of time to be with myself a lot and be more independent and further away from home that I had in my gap year. I think the only thing that's weird about it is, I mean, I was already old for my grade, so a lot of the people I were meeting are like, "Oh yeah, I just turned 18 like a month ago," and I was like, "Whoa." Or my flatmates are like, t a year and a half younger than me, and sometimes they like make fun of me for that, but really um it's been great. And like I said, I have definitely felt like happy that I'm not graduating this year.
Right.
So
Well, it's
Never too
interesting.
old, Leora. I was 10 years older than everyone in my master's degree.
What's interesting there too is Tony and I talk to admissions directors at universities. They really value students who have had the gap year, the maturity, their perspective, often the travel. So if you spent time in Spain or you've done some community service, they know they're
Exactly.
getting a student who's going to be more successful at college. And is Aranza knows better than we do. Since COVID, there's been a lot more of it, and I think we're seeing those benefits now. And certainly, if you go to university in the US, most students or many students are 19 now when they're starting. So it's, the athletes are the gap year kids, maybe somebody who reclassified after COVID. So it's certainly from our perspective, which is about kind of growth and development and finding the right fit, it can really help. And for some kids, it might be just restarting the college process. Usually you defer, but sometimes a student will say, let's start over. And those are really mature kids to work with.
Yeah, we often have people in our programs who apply to university while they are on program, and we support that as well. So, absolutely, more and more universities are advocating for gap years because they see a difference in the maturity for sure. It's, well, as we know, the data says so. It's a time to develop some soft skills, but hard skills as well. I mean, Leora, you're Spanish while you were in Spain. Did improve a lot. You can speak to that as well. But before we go, guys, we do have a question about master's degrees. We have a couple of alumni like Leora who are graduating either just there or graduating next year. And they are considering doing their master's degree in Spain or Europe. So, Maria, would you like to briefly speak about master's? Is it the same process, deadlines? What does that look like in public uni?
It's mostly the same process. You're applying to, well, you have to start in January, your last year of your bachelor. It depends when you have to, or when you want to start. Always we're talking about September intakes for public universities, but in private university there are many intakes in April, in September, and sometimes in January. Always, and it's always based on your documentation, curriculum, motivation letter, and diploma and bachelor diploma, and the homologation is not needed. Some public universities, they may require some interview, but it's not mandatory.
Okay. And Don, Tony, what does that look like for private school in Spain and Europe for a master's?
Most of the private schools are going, there's a lot of business interest, or for the business and for others, the evaluation is going to be largely what we call objective, meaning your grades, your scores. Yes, there's a recommendation. Yes, there's an essay, but unlike the undergraduate where it's a little more broad, it's often numbers based.
And I would just add that the difference is pretty similar in terms of, taking your now college, university grades, but the test will be different. Some schools are going to
Sure.
require a GRE or a GMAT. So rather than the SAT and ACT, some of the programs are going to require the next level. So it's almost as if you want to apply to medical school in the US, you take an MCAT, it's called, right? It's a medical focused exam. So that would be a difference that would come up at some private universities.
And for those students who may have graduated college and they haven't made a decision yet, and it's mid-June, are there any last minute opportunities for master's degrees?
There probably would some at the American universities abroad that would be your best in the capitals, kind of Rome, Amsterdam, London. So probably a few.
In Spain, it depends on province. For example, in Madrid, they have the deadline in middle of June, so it's no option. But sometimes you can get into the master's degree in some like extra places, like for example, some titulo propios and private programs in the public universities.
Yeah, and I would say
So,
go ahead, Maria.
No, we always suggest to try.
Yeah. That's what I was
Yes.
going to say, that with the rolling admissions that I talked about earlier at some of the private universities, you could reach out to the schools. You know, as I said, IE is looking for, you know, some of the undergrad programs, but I would think the same for some of the master's degree programs. So it's worth a shot trying, especially since they don't have a deadline. They're on a rolling admissions until the program is full.
Yeah, in the Basque Country, their public university offers last minute places until the beginning of September. So there are some very late enrollments for some fully English speaking master programs.
But private university is already full. It's one of the best universities that I love, actually, for engineering programs and for business programs.
Okay. Any more questions, you guys? Let me just triple check in writing. Vale. Lauren, any questions? Leora, any master's program questions? Okay, well, super. Thank you everyone for attending. We will be sending the recording to those who were not able to attend. Maria, Zoe, if people would like to get in touch with you, how can they do it?
We do have the contacts. I can send them like through the chat, for example, or if I can just share a screen just for one more second.
Of course.
We
Please share.
do have it here.
We also can
Excellent.
share our presentation.
Yes, yes.
Yes, if anyone is interested in receiving the presentation by email, they can contact me directly
Of course.
info@SpanishGapYear.com, and I can send it out to you guys. But here are the contact details for Terra Study.
Yes, it's just the website terrastudy.com. Just find the English language. There also you can find our contacts, but we can give it to Arancha after the presentation, the contacts, whatever everybody will need. Yes.
Okay, and Don, Tony, how can people contact you?
I would say the best way is to actually, you can learn about us this way too. Just hop on our website and you can get into, we actually make everyone write essays and we write them ourselves. And you can read our essays, you can see what Tony has to say about his time over in Spain or some of the articles that he's written about different universities. So I'd say going to McMillaneducation.com and then you can pop us a note through that if you would like to.
Fantastic. Okay, well, thank you everyone so much for joining us. Oh, Maria, thank you so much. Guest speakers, thank you so much, Leora, our guest student, and our incoming gapper, Lauren, for also joining us. And of course, you can be in touch with us with Spanish Gap Year anytime. You guys know our website, SpanishGapYear.com. You have my personal email, info@SpanishGapYear.com. And you can contact us about our program Future Leaders, about internship and entrepreneurship plus Spanish, or about the program that Leora did, Spain by Train, which is all about Spanish culture and learning Spanish. As we mentioned, our programs allow students to earn college credit as well. You can opt in or out of them, and they are fully accredited by GYA. So please do get in touch for further information, and we can connect you to McMillan Education and to Terra Study for your study abroad, bachelor's, master's, and semesters abroad information. Thank you all so much.
All right.
Thank you